work session, if we just want to start the meeting, and then if you want to read these directions that are on the screen, just so everybody knows,
Sure.
or I can.
No, that's okay. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start the December 15th work session for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Our topic tonight is definitions as it pertains to dwelling, lodging, and all manners of titles as such. So if you want to submit citizens' comments, written ones needed to be submitted by yesterday. And if we have any of those, they will be read aloud. If you are logged into our Zoom meeting via computer, you will need to raise your hand using the application, and it may look different on Apple's or Windows applications. If you are in the Zoom meeting via telephone, you will need to press *9 to let the moderator know you wish to speak, and that will be someone in the council chambers. And you will be called upon to speak in order that your notification is received. And so I hope we have plenty of you on tonight, and I'm going to go ahead and ask the Community Development Director, Jackie Wild, to give us a brief outline of the discussion topic for tonight.
George, can you put share on the screen and show me? And then we'll show all of us.
Show all of you?
Yeah.
Yes. Oops. Stop. Sorry.
We're working on it, sorry. So, I've sent everyone a packet. I apologize for the late send on the packet. There was some confusion. But, one of the things that we've talked about multiple times at multiple of our work sessions and meetings is trying to come up with the best way to recognize how dwellings are, or what the definitions of dwellings are, and possibly remove some of our definitions so we don't have so many. So I included everywhere that the word dwelling or a type of dwelling was listed in our definitions in our code. So whether it's in Chapter 8, Chapter 15, or Chapter 16, I've included all definitions. I think tonight, just us going through these pages to determine how we want to see things would be the best option. And then I'm also going to have our IT put up the different definitions that are in the other cities, how they've listed them. But I'm just going to let you guys know that instead of listing everything under dwelling, both Homer and Kenai, they list what type of dwelling. So single-family residential is under single-family residential. Condominiums is under condominiums with a definition. Instead of everything being referred to go to dwellings to see what it is, it's literally and basically in alphabetical order. So, Chair Eklund, if you want, I can go through these starting on page 2 of the packet, and we can discuss them as we go through, or you can tell me the direction that you guys are wanting to have the meeting tonight.
Okay, let me discuss with the commission just a brief second. As you stated, we have discussed in the past ways to consolidate some of these definitions, and so I appreciate all 3 sections of code that have some of the same titles sent out to us. And let me just ask if there's any other commissioner that had other hopes for where this work session was going to go tonight based on these definitions. Commissioner Swan?
Yeah, I'd like, we had this meeting and we talked about this a month or so ago, or a couple months ago. What happened with that information?
Are you talking about just the overall definitions?
Yeah, we talked about condensing a lot of the things into just fewer words, because I mean, when you read the code, it would talk about, it'd be confusing in the way it brought it up when the code was talking about any dwelling. And it would start listing a bunch of things and different things. And I thought we kind of went through, and I don't remember exactly what. It was a work section. And we had consolidated a bunch of things into, well, these things could just be called dwelling. And then in other parts of the code, it'll say this type of dwelling or this type of dwelling. But it just seemed like readability in the code, a lot of times you didn't have to describe every type of dwelling. It could just be called dwelling. And anyway, we had that work session, and did that just disappear?
So we did have a work session when we were talking about micro apartments and efficiency apartments. And at that time, we discussed the possibility of merging different dwellings, but it didn't go any further than that. We added efficiency apartment and we updated things.
No, this was just a couple months ago. You weren't at the meeting. One of the meetings you weren't at. So, Kelly, you remember, what did we talk about? You were there.
I was just looking for my notes, but yeah, we had decided that like a lot of them were kind of redundant and we could put it together into one whole section, and I don't have my notes with me right now, so there's got to be records of it in the minutes or something.
Well,
Yeah. Because I thought we were going to be building from that. And I also have to say, if you sent out a packet on this stuff, a couple of those emails didn't come through, and I never did get a packet, so I'm working kind of blind as far as what you sent out.
so I have to apologize. If Andy and Eric did a work session, I don't have minutes or notes from that,
Right.
and I don't have anything regarding it. And so I do have Excel spreadsheets and things that we have in our office have worked on trying to incorporate different things. But my understanding was this was the first time for tonight for us to go through and decide how you guys wanted to see it. So I will have to look for recording. I don't know even if they recorded that work session. And we don't take minutes at work sessions.
Right. So we could just go forward. And obviously, that whatever we did then didn't get carried forward. So let's just move forward.
Okay, Tom, what was sent out this afternoon was the short piece of Chapter 8 that had some crossover with the long list of definitions in Chapter 15. So if you have access to the code, or Jackie, you could quickly forward in that. It was an email from Brenda Ballou with the packet in it, I believe, this afternoon, late afternoon.
I also
Right,
sent
there was-
it out. So I'll resend it to Tom, just one second.
Okay. Well, I'm
At
gonna,
point in time, I don't know how I could look at it. We should just go forward, and I'll do the best I can.
Okay.
Because I can't look at that and have the screen up. I'm on the same computer and stuff. So, but we'll just fuddle through. Let's go forward.
okay. All right. So I am going to pull up that section that was sent out this afternoon and go off video so that I can have it to look at, but you'll still have my voice. So I'm going to go ahead, and if Kelly and Tom, you want to give input, or Gary, if you were at that meeting, I was not at that meeting, that work session where you discussed it. So if you see something that rings a bell to you of what the commission's already discussed in work session, could you please bring that up? And Jackie, I'm going to let you moderate because I'm going to stop my video and pull up the code.
Madam Chair, we're going to share the work session packet to the screen so everybody can see what we're looking at.
Oh, that sounds great. If we can have a screen of that, that'd be great. Perfect.
Page 2. So, as I was saying before, here we have the definitions that are in chapter 8. There's only a couple that mention dwelling or a type of dwelling. That's a duplex mobile home dwelling unit and mobile home. Again, when we're talking about housing, or dwellings, you can search in anybody's code for the word dwelling, of course, but what I've noticed is, like I was saying before, instead of having everything listed under dwelling unit, it's the type of dwelling unit. So if it's a single family house, you go to S. If it's a rural residential home, you're going to go to R. Like multifamily, it will list the 3 different types of multifamily definitions. So on this page, I just wanted to point out that there are other areas that if we update, we'll need to update that portion of the code. Page 3. So page 3, if you go down a little bit more, Josh. So under B is our first explanation of where it says see dwelling for efficiency apartment. So you're going through the code and you're trying to figure out if you can have a accessory dwelling or an efficiency apartment or a mother-in-law's apartment, which is what we used to call it, an accessory or mother-in-law. Now we just say go to see dwelling, instead of just putting what the definition of what a mother-in-law apartment is and or efficiency apartment. Page.
Can we make all 3 of those one definition?
Absolutely, yeah, and that's partly where, where I'm at. Like, we can call them an accessory apartment because within the definition, it could say, i.e. mother-in-law apartment, efficiency apartment, less than 500 square feet. The definition that we came up for that would be right there.
So we have.
And they all fit that definition, so yeah, okay, let's
Kelly?
continue on and go.
Kelly
All
has a
over that.
question.
Sure.
I was just looking up through this to remember what we talked about in the last workshop session. I think you're kind of hitting on it, but we had talked about combining all definitions of apartments to just be apartment, except for studio apartment was its own definition. And then we had a lot of talk about guest houses versus B&Bs, and I can't remember what we came up with on that. And then the last thing was to just get rid of the whole housing section, but move like bunkhouse, convalescent or nursing home, dormitory, group care home, and halfway houses as types of dwellings instead of having a separate section for housing.
Yeah,
Those are the things I remember. Maybe Tom can help too, but
yeah, and that's a big part of it that, I see. We've done this for how many years now? I'm sure Cindy's done it way before that, and Tom's done it way before that, and so's Gary. So you 3, but, this whole time we've been trying to figure out an easier way, and, I like the idea of combining all the different types of apartments, and then having the studio apartment. So if we just took, can you go to page 6, Josh? So on page 6, number 30, there's all of our definitions, and it keeps going on to page 7. I think that if we work on trying to combine, like Miss Eklund was saying, combine all of our apartments so it has that under just apartment. And then, the guest house, the mobile home, the modular home, multifamily, all have that instead of being under dwelling, it would be in the definitions in alphabetical order. Because, from the community development side, when somebody calls us and asks us to, that says they can't find something in the code, 9 times out of 10, it's because they're not looking for the word dwelling. They're just looking for what they're trying to build.
for me.
I just have one question regarding the crossover between building department and the building code, and if we do that, I don't understand how we ever got so separated on these definitions, and I was just wondering if it was because the building code had separate definitions for things that couldn't fit under, but if we just had the word apartment in under that word, if we needed to separate them out into, like the studio apartment being a size or less than a certain size, or a shared wall or an unshared wall or whatever, I think that putting it under A is better. So yeah, I agree. And as long as mobile home and modular home are the same in section 8 as in section 15 of the code, and I don't know, a guest house, I believe that's an accessory unit or whatever, and so put those, I don't know why we have two separate ones. Anyway.
Well, and looking back in some of the history, just when we were doing the accessory, or actually the efficiency apartments or the studios, when we finally came down to it, I look back and there's multiple times that it was just because some type of CUP came forward and they were like, well, we don't have this definition, so let's put this definition in. And, working with the fire department, there's been multiple times that, they have a lot easier and better definitions, and I would love to see us moving towards that because, and putting something in the code that when those definitions update, that we can update them without going to resolution or anything else, that we follow the International Building Code and Fire Code. Josh, something happened.
That seems to make sense. I don't like to be in conflict with the building inspector or the fire marshal when they're looking at a B&B and their code is saying something else. If the city's going to keep adopting the International Building Code as our code, then we should be, right, there should be no conflict between the definitions.
It will make your lives as commissioners and definitely our lives in both fire, building, and community development probably a little easier if we all, came up with a set way to have it included into the code so that, at any point in time, whether it be the building department to reference something, that they can reference it and we know that it matches up.
Yeah, that may be tricky. Because I personally don't want to have to go to the International Building Code to find a definition because it's thick.
Absolutely,
But
if we put something in our code at the beginning that says that they, we'll have the definitions, of course, in our code, but that gives us the ability to update them when they adopt a new code instead of have to bringing back new code to change. I'll work on it with Brenda and see if there's a way that we can incorporate that whenever we update into a certain international building code or fire code, that our definitions would change to whatever they have.
I've been in the clerk's office when we've adopted a new code and then tried to make our city code comply with it, and it is an arduous task because there's a lot to have to change. So yeah, I'm sure the clerk's office is the experts on how to do that. So I agree to work closely with them.
And then,
I can also.
I'm sorry, Tom.
Tom, what were you going to add?
Yeah, I was just going to add, I think when you go into the updating your building codes and stuff, I don't think you're going to see very much change in definitions from year to year, decade to decade. I mean, these things are all pretty much just something new comes in and that's it. I would think that it'd help us a lot if we had those definitions, can look at them compared to our definitions, because it sounds like a great plan. It would certainly make things so much easier, because the first thing people do is they go to the building department and or not first thing, but very often they're talking to the building department or they're talking to a contractor. And a contractor is talking from the building code. And so they're getting a description and then they're coming, to the planning department. And so if we're on the same page, it would very much make things easier. And of course, that's, nationwide definition.
Yeah, and
Yeah, if we could, I don't know, have this document that you prepared for tonight and then work with the building department to get us a document that lists theirs, then we'll make sure that whatever we have that matches theirs, we're using theirs. And if we have to have anything additional, we'll have minimal additional, but theirs should cover everything we're going to need to address.
And I'll get right on that where we ask, where we can find out. And I could just get those from the fire chief and from the building inspector. And then, we can have another work session where we incorporate them both. So we could sit down and really go back and forth on, we can take out these 10 things and replace it with this one that's listed in the International Building Code or something like that.
Yeah. So, Commission, what do you feel about continuing on? Do we have anyone from the public on the call or on the session tonight?
No, ma'am, we do not.
All right. Is there any specific thing you wanted to touch base on or that a commissioner wants to touch base on before we go this new direction by comparing the building code to the city code?
I just want to, and I think the apartments is probably a good example, I want to make sure that when we go adopting another set of definitions, for example, if we just called them all apartments and didn't specifically talk about studio apartments, that would affect quite a few numbers of places in town that were built as studio apartments and then would have to be grandfathered in somehow because we changed the definition. How does that work? You know what I'm saying?
I agree. We would have to keep that as an addition to the building code as part of the city code because we have addressed it specifically in conditional use permits and approving building plans, and the building department's aware of that. So in cases like that, that's where we need to compare the two codes.
I guess I just wanted to make sure, that's the one I know of because I've kind of been during that, that change, but I'm sure that a lot of these have changed because something was built. And I'm worried that we might miss something and take a definition out and then all of a sudden be like, oh, well, we just ruined this building over here that was supposed to be a certain thing.
When we get to the portion of changing code, every time we delete something or add something, we will reference it with any CUPs that we have and we have a list of apartments, that have the new multiplexes that we have. But in our department, we would work with that and make sure that those weren't being deleted.
Okay, good.
We worked really hard to get those studio apartments, you guys. I don't want to wipe those out.
Seriously.
Gary, did you have something to add? I see you've taken your mic, your mute off.
Yeah, I took it off only because I didn't know how to do it, and I saw it on the screen. Anyway, why would you be talking about an international building code? When I was an architect, we had the Uniform Building Code, which was the United
Well,
States.
the city of Seward adopts the International Building Code on a biannual basis or every 4 years or something. It's a big process. It goes through council a couple of times, and the building department discusses it, the fire department discusses it, but that several years ago they switched from the Uniform Building Code, I think it was in the late 90s, to the International Building Code.
And our city is...
An international...
Go ahead, Brenda. Go ahead, Jackie.
Our city is actually actually waiting for the state to adopt the newest version of the International Building Code so that we could update our code. So it is something that has, for over a year and a half that I know of, is in the process at the state level also.
Mhm. So, we got this information late in the day, although it's in the code, and if we had looked it up earlier, we could have all read it, but so, that being the case, and now that we've discussed that the building code is what the contractors work with, I'm of the ilk that maybe we, recess this early and, plan on another one for January or February when we have both codes to compare and contrast.
Madam Chair, I would love to say let's do that, and I would love for somebody to add it as one of our agenda items when we have our regular meeting tonight, to schedule that for January.
Okay, when we're talking about calendar tonight?
Yes, please.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in on continuing the work session or have a specific item that falls under this title that they want to discuss? Nope, I see a head shake no there. Gary's shaking his head. Kelly, I can't see your picture right now.
Oh, weird.
Shake your head, Kelly.
No, we're good.
Okay. All right. Well, since we have no members of the public on, if you guys are in the room and somebody tries to zoom in, hopefully IT picks up on it and somebody can explain to them why we're already over. And then they can watch the regular meeting and find out when we schedule the next work session. Thanks, everybody.
I'll see you at
I think
5
we're moving in the
minutes till.
direction. Yeah, 5 minutes till. See you in a half
Perfect.
hour.
Thank you.
Oh, my.
Bye.
Bye. So there I am.
So Gary,
I'm gonna stop. I'm already stopping it. You're on it, I don't know what. Oh, later.
did you just mute me?
I muted you.
You muted me.
I muted there.
Am I unmuted now?
Okay, yeah, Gary, so